The crimson sky above New Tokyo burned with the wreckage of humanity's last fighter squadron. Commander Sarah Chen pressed her back against the concrete barrier, watching as another wave of alien dreadnoughts descended through the smoke-filled atmosphere. Their sleek, obsidian hulls reflected the flames of a dozen burning cities, and the sound of their energy weapons carved through the air like thunder. "This is Delta Base to all remaining units," Sarah spoke into her damaged comm unit. "Fall back to secondary positions. Repeat, all units fall back." Static answered her. She was alone. The Cathara had arrived 6 months ago without warning, their massive motherships materializing in Earth's orbit like dark moons. They came not as explorers or diplomats, but as conquerors. Their first strike had been surgical and devastating. Every satellite, every space station, every orbital defense platform had been reduced to glowing debris in a matter of hours. Sarah remembered the emergency broadcasts, the panicked faces of world leaders trying to project strength while their military advisors whispered defeat behind them. The alien technology was centuries beyond anything humanity possessed. Their energy shields deflected nuclear weapons like raindrops. Their fighters moved with impossible agility. Their ground forces advanced with methodical precision, leaving nothing but scorched earth in their wake. Now, after half a year of brutal warfare, Earth's military forces existed only in scattered pockets of resistance. The great armies that once patrolled the skies and seas had been reduced to guerrilla fighters hiding in ruins. A low rumble echoed across the devastated harbor. Sarah peered over the barrier and saw them, a formation of Cathara landing craft approaching the waterfront. Each vessel was the size of a city block, their dark hulls bristling with weapon arrays. They moved in perfect formation, their anti-gravity drives creating ripples in the smoke above. "Where are the reinforcements?" Sarah muttered, checking her rifle's ammunition counter. 12 rounds left, against an alien army. The nearest landing craft settled onto the dock with mechanical precision. Its massive cargo bay began to open with a hiss of pressurized air. Sarah could see the silhouettes of Cathara soldiers inside, tall, angular beings in powered armor that gleamed like black metal. They carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. But something was wrong. The lead landing craft suddenly lurched to one side, its anti-gravity field flickering. Alarms began wailing from within the alien vessel. Sarah watched in confusion as the craft tilted further, its hull grinding against the concrete dock. Then she saw it. Something massive was moving beneath the water. The harbor had been empty for months, every ship either destroyed or commandeered by the resistance. But now the water itself seemed alive, churning with powerful currents that shouldn't exist. Sarah grabbed her binoculars and focused on the disturbance. A shape emerged from the depths. At first, she thought it was debris from a sunken warship. Then she realized the truth that made her hands tremble. It was a submarine, but unlike any submarine she had ever seen. The vessel was enormous, easily twice the length of the largest nuclear submarine in Earth's navies. Its hull was covered in what looked like living coral, patterns of blue and green that pulsed with their own light. As it rose, water cascaded from its surface in sheets, revealing more details that defied explanation. The submarine's design was clearly human in origin, but it incorporated technology that seemed impossible. Massive viewing windows showed glimpses of figures inside people, but different somehow. Their skin had a pale, almost translucent quality, and their movements suggested they were as comfortable underwater as they were breathing air. More submarines began emerging. Sarah counted 5, then 10, then lost track as the harbor filled with vessels rising from the deep. Each one was unique, bearing different markings and configurations, but all shared the same otherworldly design. The Cathara landing craft was now listing badly, its pilot struggling to maintain altitude as something massive struck it from below. Warning lights flashed across its hull as systems failed in cascade. The alien soldiers inside were shouting orders in their harsh, guttural language. Sarah's comm unit crackled to life with a signal she didn't recognize. The voice that emerged spoke English, but with an accent she couldn't place, something that sounded like waves breaking over distant shores. "Surface dwellers, this is Commander Narian of the Abyssal Fleet. Withdraw to safe distance. We are engaging the invaders." "Who is this?" Sarah responded, her voice barely steady. "Identify yourself. What fleet? What are you?" "We are what you forgot," the voice replied. The children of the deep currents, the keepers of Earth's hidden strength, you believed no help would come because you forgot we existed. The largest submarine had positioned itself directly beneath the lead Cathara landing craft. Its hull opened like a flower, revealing weapon systems that made Sarah's breath catch in her throat. Crystalline arrays emerged from concealed compartments, each one glowing with the same blue-green light that pulsed through the coral-like hull plating. Energy beams lanced upward, striking the alien vessel with precision that seemed impossible. But these weren't the crude projectile weapons or conventional missiles that humanity had been using. The submarine's attack bypassed the Cathara shields entirely, the energy somehow phasing through the alien defenses to strike the hull directly. The landing craft exploded in a brilliant flash that lit up the harbor. Burning debris rained down into the water, hissing as it met the waves. The other alien vessels immediately began evasive maneuvers, their formation breaking apart as they tried to locate the source of the attack. But the submarines had already vanished, melting back into the depths as quickly as they had appeared. The water settled into deceptive calm, showing no trace of the vessels that had just emerged. Sarah's comm unit crackled again. "Commander Chen, we have been monitoring your resistance efforts. Your courage honors the surface world, but now you must trust us to carry the fight to those who thought Earth defenseless." "How do you know my name?" Sarah asked, but the signal was already fading. "Because we have been watching," came the reply, distant now but still clear. "Waiting, learning. The Cathara believe they face only one branch of humanity's tree. They are about to discover how wrong they are." The surviving Cathara landing craft had regrouped, scanning the water with increased vigilance. Their sensors swept back and forth, probing the depths for any sign of the attackers. But the harbor appeared empty, innocent. Sarah lowered her binoculars, her mind racing. In 6 months of brutal warfare, humanity had failed to bring down a single Cathara capital ship. The alien technology had seemed insurmountable, their advantages too great to overcome. But in the span of minutes, these mysterious submarines had destroyed a landing craft that could have leveled a city block. They had weapons that could penetrate shields no human technology could breach, and they claimed to be human themselves. Her comm unit remained silent, but Sarah found herself staring at the water with new hope. Somewhere beneath those waves, Earth had allies she never knew existed. The Cathara had invaded a planet they thought they understood, but they had only encountered half of its defenders. As she watched, ripples began forming on the harbor's surface again. Not random disturbances, but patterns, deliberate signals visible only to those who knew how to look. The ocean itself was preparing for war. The aliens above continued their scans, unaware that they were being observed by eyes that had adapted to see in the deepest trenches. They searched for submarines and found only water, not realizing that for these defenders, the ocean wasn't just their hiding place. It was their home. Sarah gathered her equipment and began making her way back toward the Resistance safe houses. The surface war was far from over, but now it would be fought on multiple fronts. The Cathara had come expecting to face a single species confined to dry land. They were about to learn that Earth's children had claimed every environment the planet offered. And those who ruled the seas had been preparing for this moment far longer than anyone could have imagined. Behind her, the harbor remained calm, but Sarah could feel the weight of attention from below. Earth's hidden guardians were moving into position. The real battle was about to begin. The emergency meeting was held in the ruins of what had once been the United Nations building. Representatives from the remaining resistance cells gathered in the basement levels, where thick concrete and twisted steel provided some protection from Cathara scanners. Sarah Chen had arrived 2 hours earlier, her report about the harbor incident still fresh in everyone's minds. General Morrison, one of the few surviving military leaders, stood before a holographic display showing global battle damage assessments. Red zones covered most of the map, areas under complete alien control. The few green patches representing human holdouts seemed to shrink with each update. "Let me understand this correctly, Commander Chen," Morrison said, his weathered face skeptical. "You're claiming that unknown submarines destroyed a Cathara landing craft, submarines that appeared to be human in origin, but using technology we don't possess." "That's correct, sir," Sarah replied. The pilot identified himself as Commander Narian of something called the Abyssal Fleet. His accent was unusual, and he seemed to know details about our operations. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the Resistance's chief scientist, leaned forward from her position at the conference table. Commander, did you notice anything else unusual about these vessels? Any details about their construction or energy signatures? Sarah closed her eyes, recalling the encounter. The hulls appeared to be covered in some kind of organic material, coral-like formations that glowed with bioluminescent light. The weapons they used bypassed Cathara shields completely, something our best technology hasn't been able to accomplish. Impossible, muttered Colonel Zhang, representing the Asian resistance cells. We've tested every conceivable approach against their defensive systems. No human technology can penetrate those shields. Before anyone could respond, the room's emergency communications array activated itself. Banks of equipment that had been silent for weeks suddenly hummed to life, displays lighting up with incoming signals from around the globe. That system was fried in the first wave attacks, Dr. Vasquez said, moving toward the equipment with obvious confusion. There's no way it should be functional. The main screen flickered and resolved into an image that made everyone in the room freeze. A figure appeared, undeniably human, but changed. The man's skin had a pale, almost translucent quality that revealed faint patterns of veins beneath the surface. His hair moved as if underwater, and his eyes held depths that seemed to reflect ocean currents. Surface leaders, the figure spoke, his voice carrying the same unusual accent Sarah had heard in the harbor. I am Admiral Pelagios of the Benthic Federation. We regret the necessity of revealing ourselves under these circumstances. General Morrison stepped forward, his hand instinctively moving toward his sidearm. Identify yourself. Are you human? How are you accessing our communications? The Admiral's expression remained patient. We are as human as you, though our branches of the species tree diverged long ago. As for your communications, we designed many of the deep-sea cables that carry your signals. Accessing them presents no challenge. Impossible, Dr. Vasquez whispered. The ocean floor cables are protected by multiple encryption layers and physical barriers. Admiral Pelagios smiled, and Sarah noticed that his teeth seemed slightly sharper than normal human dentition. Dr. Vasquez, your surface civilization has been aware of our ocean floor mining operations for decades. You simply assumed they were your own. The implications hit everyone in the room simultaneously. Sarah remembered intelligence reports about unmanned deep-sea operations, resource extraction efforts that never quite matched the official records, equipment that seemed too advanced for current technology, but which was dismissed as classified military projects. You've been hiding among us, Morrison said, his voice heavy with realization. Not hiding, the Admiral corrected. Coexisting, managing the planet's marine resources while you focused on the land and sky. We have cities in the deep trenches, facilities in underwater mountain ranges, transport networks that span every ocean. Colonel Zhang stepped closer to the screen. If you've had this technology all along, why didn't you help us when the invasion began? Our people have been dying for months. The Admiral's expression darkened. Because we hoped the surface world could handle the threat independently. Our intervention would reveal secrets that both our peoples have kept for millennia, but the Cathara have proven more dangerous than we anticipated. What secrets? Sarah asked, though part of her already suspected the answer. Humanity did not evolve solely on dry land, Commander Chen. When our ancestors faced the last ice age, some chose to adapt to the warming seas instead of following the retreating glaciers. We developed along different paths, but we never forgot our common origin. Dr. Vasquez was scanning through data on her portable terminal, her eyes widening with each discovery. The genetic markers. We always wondered about the anomalies in certain population samples. DNA that seemed too diversified for standard human evolution patterns. Your scientists have found traces of us throughout history, Admiral Pelagios confirmed. Myths of merpeople, legends of underwater civilizations, reports of impossible marine phenomena. We have guided surface shipping away from our territories, influenced ocean current patterns to protect both our peoples, and maintained the planet's ecological balance. The screen flickered and split, showing additional figures. Sarah recognized Commander Narian from his voice, but now she could see his face, bearing the same pale, adapted features as the Admiral. Other officers appeared, each showing subtle variations in their aquatic adaptations. The Benthic Federation consists of dozens of city-states. Admiral Pelagios continued. We have maintained peace among ourselves for 3,000 years, developing technology that harnesses ocean currents, tidal forces, and geothermal energy. Our population exceeds 50 million souls. General Morrison sank into a nearby chair, overwhelmed by the revelation. 50 million people we never knew existed, living in cities we never detected. Detection was never the challenge, Commander Narian spoke for the first time. Concealment was. Your sonar sweeps pass over our settlements daily, but our materials are designed to mimic natural ocean formations. Your submarines patrol above our territories without ever realizing they are in inhabited space. Sarah found her voice. Why reveal yourselves now? What's changed? The Admiral's expression became grim. The Cathara are not merely invading your surface territories, Commander. They are poisoning the oceans themselves. Their industrial processes are releasing toxins that threaten every marine ecosystem on Earth. If they succeed in their conquest, they will render the planet uninhabitable for both our peoples. New images appeared on the screen, underwater landscapes that took Sarah's breath away. Vast cities built into coral formations, their architecture flowing and organic but clearly artificial. Transportation tubes that carried streams of light through the water. Gardens of cultivated sea life that formed living art installations. This is what we stand to lose, Admiral Pelagios said quietly. This is what the Cathara would destroy in their pursuit of planetary resources. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her terminal, her face pale. The recent changes in ocean chemistry that we detected, we assumed they were from increased industrial runoff due to the war. But if the aliens are directly contaminating the water, the damage accelerates daily, Commander Narian confirmed. Our agricultural systems are already showing stress. The deep current networks that power our cities are being disrupted. We can survive the surface war, but not the ecological collapse that follows. Colonel Zhang studied the tactical displays that had appeared alongside the city images. What kind of military capabilities are we talking about? How many vessels? What weapons systems? The Abyssal Fleet numbers 8,000 vessels of various classes, Admiral Pelagios replied. Our weapons are designed to function in three-dimensional ocean environments, which gives us significant advantages in space-based combat. We can generate focused energy fields, manipulate water pressure as a weapon, and our hulls are constructed from living materials that can adapt to damage. Sarah remembered the coral-like formations on the submarines she had seen. Living materials. Our cities and ships are grown rather than built, the Admiral explained. Symbiotic organisms that respond to our needs, self-repairing and constantly evolving. The weapons you witnessed use principles of molecular resonance. They can phase through most artificial barriers by matching their frequency to the target material. The implications were staggering. Sarah realized that humanity had developed not one, but two completely different technological paths. The surface world had pursued metal and electronics, while the ocean dwellers had mastered biological engineering. General Morrison straightened in his chair, his strategic mind already working. If we combine forces, what are our chances against the Cathara? Significantly improved, Admiral Pelagios said. The aliens have adapted their tactics to fight surface forces. They are not prepared for three-dimensional warfare in an environment they cannot fully understand. Water conducts energy differently than air, pressure changes affect their equipment, and their shields are optimized for space combat, not underwater assault. Commander Narian added, We have been studying captured Cathara technology for 3 months. Their materials science is impressive, but they rely heavily on metallic composites and crystalline matrices. Our bioweapons can disrupt those structures at the molecular level. Sarah felt a surge of hope for the first time in months. What do you need from us? Coordination, the Admiral replied. We can strike at their fleet elements when they approach the coasts, but we need surface forces to maintain pressure on their ground operations. The Cathara must be convinced that they face a unified planetary defense, not separate human factions. Dr. Vasquez was already taking notes. We'll need to establish secure communication protocols, share tactical intelligence, coordinate timing for joint operations. That has already been arranged, Commander Narian said with what might have been amusement. We have been monitoring your resistance communications since the invasion began. We know your capabilities, your resource limitations, and your strategic objectives. The screen showed new tactical displays, detailed maps of Cathara positions overlaid with ocean approach routes. Attack vectors that had seemed impossible suddenly became viable when approached from beneath the waves. The next major engagement will be at the port of Long Beach in 72 hours, Admiral Pelagios announced. The Cathara are massing forces for an assault on the West Coast resistance strongholds. We will be waiting for them. Sarah studied the tactical projections, her mind already working through the possibilities. For months, the resistance had been fighting a losing battle against superior technology and impossible odds. But now Earth's hidden defenders were emerging from the depths, bringing weapons and capabilities the aliens had never encountered. The war was about to change completely. The Cathara had invaded a planet they thought they understood, but they had only seen half of humanity's potential. The children of the sea were rising to reclaim their world. The descent began at dawn, 30 miles off the coast of California. Sarah Chen gripped the handholds inside the benthic transport vessel as it sliced through the waves with impossible silence. The craft looked like a giant manta ray from the outside, its bioluminescent hull pulsing with gentle blue patterns as it communicated with the escort vessels surrounding them. "First time breathing liquid?" asked Lieutenant Thane, one of the aquatic humans assigned as their liaison. His gill slits fluttered slightly as he spoke, demonstrating an adaptation that still amazed Sarah despite 3 days of preparation. "I never imagined it would be possible," she replied, checking the biomask sealed over her face. The device looked more like living coral than technology, its organic filters extracting oxygen from the oxygenated fluid that filled her lungs. The sensation was deeply unsettling, but undeniably effective. General Morrison sat across from her, looking decidedly uncomfortable with the breathing apparatus. "How deep are we going, Lieutenant?" "The tactical staging area is at 12,000 feet, Thane replied. "Deep enough to avoid Cathara detection sweeps, but shallow enough for surface coordination. You'll want to see Hadal City, but that will have to wait until after the operation." Through the transparent aluminum viewing ports, Sarah watched the ocean transform around them. Sunlight faded gradually, replaced by the ship's bioluminescent running lights and the occasional flash of deep-sea creatures. Schools of fish moved in patterns too organized to be natural, and Sarah realized they were seeing managed marine ecosystems. "The entire ocean is cultivated," she murmured, understanding dawning. Lieutenant Thane nodded. "Every current, every feeding ground, every migration route has been optimized over centuries. We don't just live in the sea, we are partners with it." Dr. Vasquez, who had insisted on joining the mission despite the risks, was recording everything with scientific instruments provided by their hosts. "The biointegration is remarkable. Your technology appears to be grown rather than manufactured." "Because it is," Thane confirmed. "This transport vessel started as a small polyp 3 years ago. We guided its growth, taught it to respond to our needs, formed a symbiotic relationship. In exchange for shelter and purpose, it provides mobility and protection." The descent continued, and Sarah began to see lights in the distance. At first, they appeared to be scattered points of illumination, but as they drew closer, the true scale became apparent. An entire city sprawled across the ocean floor, its architecture flowing and organic like a vast coral reef, but clearly artificial in its organization and purpose. "Pacifica Station," Lieutenant Thane announced. "One of our newer settlements, established only 800 years ago." 800 years. Sarah tried to process the implications. While surface civilizations rose and fell, humanity's ocean dwellers had been steadily developing their underwater society, completely hidden from the world above. The transport settled onto a landing platform that seemed to grow from the sea floor itself. As they disembarked, Sarah found herself breathing liquid while walking through an environment that challenged every assumption she had about underwater habitation. The air was oxygenated water, but movement felt natural, almost easier than walking in Earth's atmosphere. Commander Narian was waiting for them, accompanied by a figure Sarah hadn't expected to see. Admiral Pelagios himself had come to brief them personally, his presence commanding immediate respect from the dozens of aquatic humans moving through the area. "Welcome to our world," Admiral Pelagios said, his voice carrying clearly through the liquid medium. "You are about to see capabilities that will change your understanding of this war." They were led through corridors that pulsed with their own light, past chambers where Sarah glimpsed laboratories, workshops, and living spaces that defied conventional architecture. Everything was curved, flowing, designed to work with water rather than against it. The tactical center was a spherical chamber at the station's heart, its walls displaying three-dimensional maps of the ocean and the space above it. Cathara fleet positions appeared as red markers, while friendly forces showed in blue and green. The scale of the Benthic Federation's forces was staggering. 8,000 vessels, Admiral Pelagios said, nodding Sarah's expression. But numbers alone won't win this war. The Cathara have superior individual unit capabilities. Our advantage lies in environment and tactics they cannot anticipate. General Morrison studied the tactical displays, his strategic experience adapting quickly to the three-dimensional combat environment. Their fleet maintains high altitude to avoid surface-to-air missiles, but they have to come down to deploy landing forces. Precisely, Commander Narian agreed. And when they descend, they enter our domain, observe. The chamber's displays shifted to show recorded footage from previous engagements. Sarah watched as Cathara landing craft approached coastal targets, their movements confident and methodical. Then the ocean beneath them erupted. Benthic vessels rose from the depths like leviathans, their bioluminescent hulls flaring with weapon discharges. But these weren't the crude projectiles or conventional energy beams that surface forces used. The attacks appeared to phase through space itself, bypassing shields and armor to strike directly at the alien vessel's internal systems. Molecular resonance weapons, Dr. Vasquez breathed, recognizing the principle. You're targeting specific materials at the atomic level. Our weapons evolved from deep-sea mining tools, Admiral Pelagios explained. When you need to extract specific minerals from mixed ore deposits 3 miles underwater, you develop very precise molecular manipulation techniques. Sarah watched as Cathara craft simply came apart in midair, their composite hulls separating along molecular bonds. The aliens inside were unharmed, but their vehicles became useless in seconds. The Cathara use advanced metallurgy and crystalline matrices, Commander Narian added. Materials that are extremely vulnerable to resonance weapons once we map their molecular structure. We've been analyzing wreckage from their attacks for months. Lieutenant Thane activated another display. The real advantage comes from our mobility. Cathara sensors are designed for space and atmospheric combat. They scan for metal, electronics, heat signatures. Our vessels register as biological entities, essentially large sea creatures. The tactical implications were enormous. Sarah realized that the Benthara had been fighting a conventional war against an enemy they couldn't properly detect or understand. What about their ground forces? General Morrison asked. Once they establish beachheads, how do we coordinate surface and subsurface operations? Admiral Pelagios smiled, revealing those slightly predatory teeth. We don't fight them on the beaches, General. We fight them before they reach the beaches. New footage appeared Cathara landing craft attempting to approach shorelines, only to be attacked by creatures that seemed impossible. Massive biomechanical entities that moved through water like living submarines, but could extend themselves onto land when needed. Amphibious assault units, Commander Narian explained. Part organism, part technology, capable of operating in any environment. They can pursue enemy forces from ocean depths to mountain peaks if necessary. Dr. Vasquez was frantically taking notes. The biointegration allows for adaptability that manufactured equipment can't match. These entities can literally evolve new capabilities during combat. Within limits, Admiral Pelagios cautioned. But yes, our symbiotic partners can adapt to new threats faster than any manufactured system. Sarah studied the displays showing Cathara force dispositions. When do we begin the joint operations? The first coordinated strike occurs in 18 hours, Commander Narian announced. The aliens are massing forces for a major assault on the West Coast resistance strongholds. They have positioned their fleet in a standard orbital bombardment formation. The tactical displays shifted to show the alien fleet's current positions. Dozens of massive dreadnoughts hung in high orbit, while smaller craft moved between space and atmosphere in regular patterns. The formation was designed to provide overlapping fields of fire against any surface-based resistance. They expect ground-based defenses, Admiral Pelagios observed. Surface-to-air missiles, fighter aircraft, conventional military responses. They have not prepared for attacks from below. Lieutenant Thane activated a new set of displays showing the planned operation. Phase 1, Benthic strike teams will target the atmospheric support vessels when they descend for landing operations. Phase 2, surface resistance forces will engage their ground units while our forces attack their orbital platforms. Phase 3, combined assault on their command vessels. Sarah felt her pulse quicken despite the strange environment. You can reach orbital targets from underwater. Our weapons are not limited by atmosphere, Commander Narian explained. Energy propagation through water actually provides better focus for long-range targeting. We can strike orbital positions from ocean depths. General Morrison was studying the operational timeline. Coordination will be critical. If either force moves too early, the aliens will adapt their tactics. Agreed, Admiral Pelagios said. Which is why you are here. We need surface forces to understand our capabilities, and we need to understand yours. This war cannot be won by either group alone. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her notes. The Cathara chose Earth because they believed it was inhabited by a single species with limited technological development. They have no idea they're facing two branches of humanity with completely different but complementary capabilities. Their intelligence was incomplete, the Admiral confirmed. They observed surface civilizations, monitored your communications, analyzed your technology, but they never detected our presence because they assumed all intelligent life would be land-based like themselves. Sarah realized the full scope of the alien error. The Cathara had planned their invasion based on surface observations alone. They had no idea that Earth's defenders included beings who could operate equally well in space, atmosphere, and ocean environments. Tomorrow's battle will be their first encounter with our true capabilities, Commander Narian said. They will learn that Earth is not as defenseless as they believed. The chamber's displays showed real-time positions of both human and alien forces. Benthic vessels were moving into position along the ocean floor, while surface resistance units prepared for coordinated action. The stage was set for a battle unlike anything in human history. Two branches of humanity were about to reunite in the defense of their shared world. The children of land and sea would fight together, combining technologies and tactics the Cathara could never anticipate. The ocean itself was preparing for war. The attack began before dawn, as it always did. Sarah Chen watched from the command center of the Benthic vessel Leviathan as Cathara dreadnoughts descended through Earth's atmosphere in their standard invasion formation. The aliens had learned to avoid prolonged orbital bombardments after losing several ships to the mysterious deep space attacks that had been plaguing them for weeks. Contact in 90 seconds, reported Commander Narian, his bioluminescent tactical displays casting blue-green light across his adapted features. All Benthic strike teams report ready. Surface coordination links are active. Through the Leviathan's organic viewing ports, Sarah could see nothing but the deep ocean, but the tactical displays showed the full scope of the battle developing above them. General Morrison's voice crackled through the quantum communication system that the aquatic humans had somehow integrated with surface radio networks. Surface forces in position. We have visual confirmation of 12 Cathara landing craft approaching Vector 7, beginning diversionary attack in 30 seconds. Admiral Pelagios stood at the center of the spherical command chamber, his hands resting on control surfaces that seemed to grow from the ship's living hull. All units, maintain depth until enemy commits to landing approach. Remember, they must believe they face only surface resistance until the moment of revelation. Sarah felt the Leviathan shift beneath her feet as the massive bioship adjusted its position. Around them, dozens of other vessels moved through the water with predatory grace, each one a fusion of creature and technology that defied every convention of military engineering. The first explosions echoed down through the water as Morrison's forces engaged the Cathara scouts. On the tactical display, Sarah watched surface missiles streak toward the alien craft, most of them deflected harmlessly by energy shields. The aliens responded with precisely the contempt they had shown throughout the invasion. Enemy formation descending to assault altitude, Lieutenant Thane reported. Shields at maximum power, weapons charging for ground bombardment. Now they reveal their arrogance, Admiral Pelagios said quietly. They see desperate humans launching futile attacks. They prepare to deliver the killing blow. The Cathara landing craft dropped to barely 1,000 feet above the ocean's surface, their massive hulls bristling with energy weapons. Sarah could see them clearly now through the bioship's enhanced vision systems, sleek predators descending to finish wounded prey. All units, Admiral Pelagios commanded, his voice carrying to every benthic vessel in the fleet. Rise. The ocean exploded into motion. Creatures of impossible size broke the surface around the Cathara formation, but these were no mere sea monsters. The benthic assault units were living ships, biomechanical leviathans that moved with intelligence and purpose. Their hulls pulsed with weapon systems that had evolved over centuries of deep ocean warfare. Sarah watched in awe as the leviathan breached the surface, its coral-like armor shedding cascades of water as it rose. Around them, the entire abyssal fleet emerged from concealment, transforming the battle space in seconds from empty ocean to a three-dimensional combat zone filled with defenders the aliens had never imagined. The Cathara formation scattered immediately, their pilots struggling to adapt to threats they couldn't understand. Energy beams lanced out from their weapons, but struck targets that seemed to absorb the attacks without significant damage. Resonance weapons full spread, Commander Narian ordered. The Leviathan's biocannons discharged with a sound like singing whales, but the effects were devastatingly precise. The molecular resonance beams passed through the Cathara shields as if they didn't exist, targeting the specific metallic composites that formed the alien's hull plating. Sarah watched a landing craft simply come apart in midair, its structure separating along atomic bonds with surgical precision. The aliens inside survived, but their vehicle became a cloud of component materials that fell harmlessly into the ocean. Impossible, came a transmission from the Cathara command frequency, automatically translated by the benthic communication systems. What manner of weapons are these? Admiral Pelagios smiled coldly. They're asking the wrong question. They should be asking what manner of beings we are. More benthic vessels were surfacing now, each one revealing capabilities that challenged the aliens' understanding of Earth's defenses. Some fired projectiles that moved like living things, actively seeking targets and adapting their approach in real time. Others generated energy fields that disrupted Cathara electronics through electromagnetic principles no surface technology had mastered. The most spectacular sight was the emergence of the deepwater assault platforms, biomechanical constructs the size of aircraft carriers, but capable of movement through water, air, and space with equal facility. Their weapon systems had been grown rather than built, organic arrays that could modify their own output characteristics during combat. Surface forces advanced to secondary positions, General Morrison's voice commanded through the communication link. Benthic forces have achieved tactical surprise, moving to exploit the breakthrough. Sarah could see the surface battle developing on the tactical displays. With the Cathara air support neutralized by the oceanic assault, Morrison's ground forces were advancing against alien positions that had suddenly lost their technological advantages. But the real revelation came when the Cathara orbital fleet attempted to intervene. The massive dreadnoughts that had remained in high orbit began descending to provide direct support to their embattled surface units. Admiral, Commander Narian reported, enemy capital ships are breaking orbit. Estimated time to engagement range 4 minutes. Admiral Pelagios studied the tactical projections with the patience of a predator. Let them come. They still don't understand what they're facing. The Leviathan and its escorts began a synchronized dive, disappearing beneath the waves as quickly as they had emerged. But Sarah could see on the displays that they weren't retreating. They were repositioning for the next phase of the assault. Deep strike configuration, the Admiral commanded. Target the orbital platforms. Sarah felt her stomach lurch as she grasped the full audacity of the plan. You're going to attack ships in orbit from underwater. Distance is irrelevant when you can manipulate energy at the molecular level, Admiral Pelagios explained. Water provides better focusing medium than atmosphere for our weapons. We can strike targets anywhere within the Earth-Moon system. The bioship's hull began to glow with increasing intensity as its weapon systems charged. Around them, dozens of other vessels were doing the same. their coral-like armor blazing with bioluminescent patterns that spoke of immense power being gathered. "Quantum targeting arrays online," Lieutenant Thane reported. "Enemy signatures locked, firing solutions computed." Through the communication link, Sarah heard General Morrison coordinating the surface assault. "Cathara ground forces are falling back to defensive positions. Their air support has been completely neutralized, requesting permission to advance on primary objectives." "Granted," Admiral Pelagios responded. "We are about to remove their orbital support as well." The deep strike began without ceremony. Columns of energy lanced upward from the ocean depths, passing through atmosphere and space to strike the Cathara dreadnoughts with pinpoint accuracy. The beams appeared to bend around the alien vessel's shields, targeting specific structural points with knowledge gained from months of wreckage analysis. Sarah watched the tactical display as capital ships that had seemed invulnerable began losing power and maneuverability. The molecular resonance weapons were dismantling their hulls at the atomic level, turning advanced composites into collections of harmless elements. "Targeting enemy command vessel," Commander Narian announced. "Flagship is attempting to withdraw to safe distance." The largest dreadnought was indeed climbing rapidly, trying to escape the unexpected assault from below. But the benthic weapons had range and accuracy that defied conventional understanding of underwater combat. A particularly brilliant discharge from the deep-water assault platforms reached the fleeing command ship, and Sarah watched its shields collapse as the resonance beams found their target. The massive vessel began listing as its internal systems failed in cascade. "Unknown attackers," came a desperate transmission from the Cathara flagship. "We demand identification. By what authority do you engage our forces?" Admiral Pelagios gestured, and the communication systems opened a response channel. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of depths no surface dweller had ever explored. "We are the children of Earth's waters," he declared. "We are the guardians of currents you never knew existed. We are the defenders you dismissed because you looked only at the surface of our world." The transmission was broadcast on all frequencies, ensuring that every surviving Cathara unit would receive the message. Sarah realized that this moment would mark the end of the aliens' belief that they faced a primitive, divided species. "You came to conquer what you thought was a single branch of humanity," Admiral Pelagios continued. "You studied our surface civilizations and concluded we were weak, fractured, limited to a narrow range of environments. You were wrong on every count." The battle was winding down now, but the real victory was in the revelation itself. The Cathara had planned their invasion based on incomplete intelligence. They had assumed that Earth's defenders were confined to dry land, using primitive technology and divided by national conflicts. Instead, they had encountered a species that had claimed every environment their planet offered, developed technologies along multiple evolutionary paths, and maintained unity beneath surface differences that had concealed their true strength. "This world belongs to those who cherish it," Admiral Pelagios concluded. "Land, sea, and sky are all our domain. You are not welcome here." The communication link closed, leaving only the tactical displays showing the aftermath of the engagement. Of the Cathara force that had begun the assault, less than 30% remained functional. Their survivors were retreating in disorder, no longer confident in their technological superiority. Sarah looked around the command center, seeing the faces of humanity's hidden defenders, and felt something she hadn't experienced in months of brutal warfare. Not just hope, but certainty. The Cathara had made the fatal error of underestimating their opponents. Earth's children had revealed their true nature, and the balance of power had shifted permanently. The ocean had spoken, and the galaxy would remember its voice. 3 weeks after the first coordinated assault, Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of Hadal City, watching the final preparations for Operation Deep Strike. Through the bioluminescent viewing walls, she could see the assembled fleet of the Benthic Federation, 8,000 vessels preparing for humanity's first interplanetary offensive. The past month had transformed the war completely. What had begun as a desperate defensive action had become a systematic dismantling of Cathara forces throughout the solar system. The aliens who had once seemed invincible were now retreating to their motherships, unable to comprehend how thoroughly their intelligence had failed them. Admiral Pelagios approached across the city's organic deck plating, his expression mixing satisfaction with the weariness of prolonged campaign. Commander Chen, General Morrison sends his regards from the Surface Coordination Center. The last Cathara ground installations have been neutralized. Sarah nodded, though her attention remained focused on the incredible sight beyond the city's walls. Hadal City itself was a marvel that challenged every assumption about underwater habitation. Built into a deep ocean trench, the settlement stretched for miles in all directions, its architecture flowing like living coral, but clearly designed by intelligence far beyond what surface humanity had achieved. "It's difficult to believe your people kept this hidden for so long," Sarah said, watching streams of biomechanical transports moving through the water with purposeful efficiency. "Concealment was never the challenge," Admiral Pelagios replied. "Your surface civilizations explored less than 5% of Earth's oceans. We simply made our homes in the places you never thought to look." Dr. Vasquez emerged from one of the research modules, her eyes bright with the excitement of discovery. "Admiral, the integration of our technologies is proceeding faster than we projected. The surface manufacturing facilities are already producing hybrid systems that combine our electronics with your biomechanical principles." The collaboration between surface and oceanic humans had proven remarkably fruitful. Surface precision manufacturing merged with benthic biological engineering to create weapons and vehicles that surpassed anything either group had developed alone. The results were devastating against Cathara forces designed to fight conventional opponents. "The enemy motherships have withdrawn beyond Mars orbit," reported Commander Narian as he joined the group. "Our deep space reconnaissance units confirm they are preparing for departure." Sarah felt a mixture of relief and frustration. "They're abandoning the invasion." "Not abandoning," Admiral Pelagios corrected. "Regrouping. The Cathara are a proud species. They will not accept defeat until they understand exactly why they were defeated." Lieutenant Thane approached with a tactical update that made Sarah's pulse quicken. "Admiral, we've received the final intelligence assessment from our infiltration units. The enemy has discovered our lunar observation posts." Sarah stared at him. Lunar observation posts. Admiral Pelagios smiled with the patient expression he used when revealing capabilities that stretched surface understanding. "Commander, did you think we limited ourselves to Earth's oceans? Ice exists throughout the solar system, and where there is ice, we can establish habitats." The implications hit her like a physical blow. "How long have you been operating off-world?" "The lunar installations are nearly 2 centuries old," the Admiral replied casually. "Europa and Enceladus have hosted our communities for over a century. We have research stations on Titan, mining operations in the asteroid belt, and exploration vessels reaching toward the outer planets." Dr. Vasquez was frantically taking notes. "You've had space-faring capabilities all this time." "Space is simply another ocean," Commander Narian explained. "The principles that allow us to navigate ocean currents and pressure differentials translate remarkably well to orbital mechanics and vacuum operations." Sarah realized that humanity's response to the Cathara invasion had been even more limited in scope than she had imagined. The surface world had been fighting desperately to defend a single planet, while their oceanic cousins had been drawing upon resources and capabilities spanning multiple worlds. "The motherships are attempting to establish a defensive position near Jupiter," Lieutenant Thane continued his briefing. "They believe the gas giant's radiation will interfere with our biomechanical systems." Admiral Pelagios studied the tactical projections with obvious amusement. "They still don't understand what they're dealing with. Jupiter's radiation environment is actually beneficial to some of our symbiotic partners." The observation deck's displays shifted to show the final phase of Operation Deep Strike. Benthic vessels were already in motion, their living hulls adapted for interplanetary travel. But these weren't the submarines that had emerged from Earth's harbors. These were true starships, grown rather than built, capable of crossing the solar system while maintaining full life support for their crews. "Commander Chen," Admiral Pelagios said, turning to face her directly, "your surface forces have proven themselves worthy allies. We would be honored if you would accompany us for the final engagement." Sarah looked out at the assembled fleet, trying to process the scale of what she was seeing. Ships the size of skyscrapers moved through the water with whale-like grace, their hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that served as both communication and navigation systems. These were vessels that could operate equally well in ocean depths and interplanetary space. The Cathara chose to invade Earth because they believed it was inhabited by a primitive species limited to a single environment, Admiral Pelagios continued. They will depart with the knowledge that they attacked a civilization that claims every habitat in the solar system. General Morrison's voice crackled through the communication system from the Surface Coordination Center. Benthic Command, surface forces report ready for supporting operations. Our orbital platforms are in position to provide targeting data for the Jupiter engagement. Acknowledged, General, Admiral Pelagios responded. The combined fleet will depart in 6 hours. This will be the first time in human history that our two branches coordinate an interplanetary military operation. Sarah accepted the invitation, knowing she was about to witness events that would reshape humanity's understanding of itself. The journey to the Leviathan's sister ship took her through sections of Hadal City she hadn't seen before, revealing the true scope of the oceanic civilization. Libraries built from living coral housed knowledge accumulated over millennia. Workshops where beings with adapted hands crafted tools from materials that grew in response to their needs. Gardens where food was cultivated not in soil, but in carefully managed ecosystems that thrived under tremendous pressure. The starship Aurora was a marvel that defied every convention of spacecraft design. Its hull was translucent in places, revealing the biomechanical systems that served as both propulsion and life support. Corridors lined with what looked like coral, but functioned as advanced computing systems. Command centers where the boundaries between crew and ship seemed to blur. "Departure in 30 minutes, announced Captain Thalassa as Sarah settled into her assigned station. All surface liaison personnel are advised that interplanetary bioship operations may feel unusual compared to conventional spacecraft. The departure itself was unlike anything Sarah had experienced. Rather than the violent acceleration of rocket engines, the Aurora simply began moving, its living systems adapting gradually to the requirements of space travel. The ship's hull began glowing with patterns that served multiple functions: navigation, communication, and energy collection from cosmic radiation. Through the viewing ports, Sarah watched Earth falling behind them, but also saw the true scope of humanity's presence in space for the first time. Stations that appeared to be asteroids revealed themselves as habitats when the proper bioluminescent codes were transmitted. Transport routes that looked like empty space showed trails of light when viewed with the right sensors. The Cathara detected our surface civilization's radio signals and concluded they had found the limits of human development, Captain Thalassa explained. They never imagined that we might communicate through bioluminescent networks that appear to be natural phenomena. The voyage to Jupiter took 18 hours, but it revealed a solar system that bore little resemblance to what surface astronomy had mapped. Hidden installations, camouflaged mining operations, research stations that mimicked natural objects. Humanity's oceanic branch had been quietly spreading throughout the system for centuries. When they finally approached the Cathara motherships, Sarah understood why the aliens had chosen to make their stand near Jupiter. The massive vessels were indeed impressive, their crystalline hulls reflecting the gas giant's turbulent atmosphere. They had positioned themselves to take advantage of the radiation environment while maintaining defensive formations. But they had made one critical error. They still thought in terms of conventional warfare. The benthic fleet didn't attack the motherships directly. Instead, they began generating resonance fields that turned Jupiter's radiation into a weapon. The biomechanical systems that the aliens had hoped to disrupt were actually enhanced by the high-energy environment, while the Cathara's crystalline technology began experiencing cascade failures. "Surrender," came the transmission from Admiral Pelagios to the alien fleet. "You came to conquer a world you never understood. Return to your own space with the knowledge that Earth's children are not confined to any single environment." The response came in the form of a desperate attack, the motherships launching everything they had in a final attempt to inflict damage on their unexpected opponents. Energy beams that could have destroyed cities struck the Aurora and its escorts, but the living hulls simply absorbed the attacks and converted them into useful energy. "Biomechanical regeneration at full efficiency," reported the ship's medical officer, a being so adapted to aquatic life that Sarah could barely recognize the human ancestry. All damage repaired, hull strength actually increased by the energy absorption. The battle's conclusion was more revelation than victory. The Cathara motherships, their power systems failing due to resonance cascade effects, began broadcasting surrender signals. They had learned the lesson that every would-be conqueror eventually discovered. Earth was not defenseless. It had simply been selective about revealing its true capabilities. As the alien fleet retreated toward the edge of the solar system, Admiral Pelagios opened a final communication channel. Remember what you have learned here. Earth is home to children of land and sea, of depths and heights, of worlds you never imagined. We are one species, but we claim every environment that exists. Sarah watched the Cathara ships disappear into interstellar space, carrying word of humanity's true nature to whatever civilizations might be listening. The message would spread. Earth was not a primitive world ripe for conquest, but the home of a species that had mastered every habitat their planet and solar system offered. The return journey gave her time to process the full scope of what had been revealed. Humanity had never been confined to the surface world. They had simply forgotten their oceanic cousins, just as the ocean dwellers had chosen to remain hidden until the threat to their shared world became too great to ignore. Now, as Sarah stood once again on Hadal City's observation deck, watching surface and oceanic humans working together to rebuild and explore, she realized that the Cathara invasion had accomplished something no diplomacy could have achieved. It had reunited humanity's divided branches and revealed the true potential of Earth's children. The galaxy had learned a lesson that would not soon be forgotten. Humanity had claimed not just one world, but every environment that world offered. They were the children of land and sea, earth and sky, and their reach extended far beyond any single planet. The ocean had risen to defend the world, and the stars themselves had taken notice.